MES College Marampally e-learning.
Good morning everyone. I welcome you all to today's lecture. Myself Zeba, Assistant Professor of Department of Psychology, MES College Marampally. So in this lecture I will be discussing about human rights. This is a general introduction about human rights. So we will move on to the topic. To deny people their human rights is to challenge their very humanity. This is a quote by Nelson Mandela, and with this we will start our session. So here we will be discussing about a small intro to human rights and its meaning, concept and development, how human rights developed, the historical events that led to the development of human rights. Human rights are the rights we have simply because we exist as human beings. They are not granted by any state. And these universal rights are inherent to us all regardless of our nationality, sex, ethnic origin, color, religion, language or any other status. And they range from the most fundamental, that is the right to life, to those that make life worth living, such as the right to food, education, work, health and liberty. So these are inherent to all human beings and they are also known as fundamental rights or basic rights. We all have heard about the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and this was adopted by the United Nations General Assembly in 1948, and this was the first legal document to set out the fundamental human rights to be universally protected. And the Universal Declaration of Human Rights turns 72 this year, and it continues to be the foundation of all international human rights law. Moving on to the concept of human rights, they are the rights enjoyed by a person simply because he or she is a human being. And human rights are held by all people equally, universally and forever. And all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. Different countries ensure those rights in different ways, and as we all know, in India they are contained in our constitution as fundamental rights. The fundamental rights are the statutorily guaranteed rights of human beings. Human rights is not something that was made upon a single day. The concept of human rights is as old as the civilization, and this is evident from the fact that at almost all stages of mankind, there have been a human right document in one form or the other. Originally, people had rights only because of their membership in a group such as family. Then in 539 BC, Cyrus the Great, after conquering the city of Babylon, freed all the slaves to return home. Moreover, he declared people should choose their own religion. The clay tablet containing his statements, known as the Cyrus Cylinder, is the first human rights declaration in history. The idea of human rights spread quickly to India, Greece and eventually Rome. The most important advances since then are as follows: Magna Carta of 1215, Social Contract Theory, English Bill of Rights, the American Declaration of Independence, American Bill of Rights, French Declaration of the Rights of Man, the Bolshevik Revolution of Russia, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and the International Covenants on Human Rights. So in the coming slides, we will be discussing about each of these events briefly. The first one is Magna Carta of 1215, and it is considered as the first charter of liberty, and it was signed by the King John of England in 1215, and its main theme was protection against the arbitrary acts of the king. The second one is social contract theory. It is an enormously influential theory. It has been one of the best theories within moral and political theory throughout the history of the modern West. And the social contract theory says that people live together in society in accordance with an agreement that establishes moral and political rules of behavior. And these doctrines became popular during the 16th and 17th century through the writings of different authors. The next is English Bill of Rights of 1689, and this was signed in England in 1689 after the Glorious Revolution, which took place in 1688. So after the revolution, the power of king was reduced and the British Parliament declared its supremacy over the crown in clear terms. And the English Bill of Rights outlined specific constitutional and civil rights and ultimately gave Parliament power over the monarchy. Many experts regard the English Bill of Rights as the primary law that set the stage for a constitutional monarchy in England. And this is also credited as being an inspiration for the United States Bill of Rights. The fourth event was American Declaration of Independence of 1776, and before the year 1776, United States of America was not a country. The individual states were colonies of the British Empire and they were called British colonies. The king and the Parliament of Great Britain ruled the colonies. Later, America declared independent from Britain. United States Declaration of Independence is an important document in the history of United States of America. It was ratified on July 4, 1776, and this says that Americans were no longer under British rule. Instead, the 13 British colonies came together to become a union of new free and independent states. Next is the American Bill of Rights of 1791. The American Bill of Rights contains the first 10 amendments of the American Constitution. This was largely because of the efforts of James Madison, who studied the deficiencies of the Constitution pointed out by anti-federalists and then crafted a series of corrective proposals. And these 10 constitutional amendments came to be known as the Bill of Rights in America. The following event was the French Declaration of the Rights of Man of 1789, set by France National Constituent Assembly in 1789, is a human civil rights document from the French Revolution. So the revolution reached its climax in 1789, and as a result, the ancient feudalism and serfdom came to an end. The slogan of the revolution was liberty, equality and fraternity. And this revolution gave a fatal blow to absolute monarchy and a death blow to feudalism and led to the establishment of French Republic. As a result, all the special privileges were abolished and the society came to be organized on the basis of equality. And this enabled the people to enjoy different kinds of rights. The revolution established the novel ideas of liberty, equality and fraternity. The revolution brought the idea that the government should be not only for the people but also by the people. The next in line is the Bolshevik Revolution of Russia of 1917. So the Russian Revolution was the greatest social uprising of the world after the French Revolution. And this took place in 1917, and it was the first successful communist revolution of the world. The revolt was against the naked exploitation of the masses by the autocratic ruler and the wealthy feudal nobles. The Russian Revolution brought a thorough change in the political, social and economic life of the people and established the first pro-literate government of the world. This revolution emphasized that economic and social rights were as important as the civil and political rights. As a result, many economic and social rights had been included in the Soviet Constitution. So the events which I explained earlier all inspired the development of Universal Declaration of Human Rights of 1948. This was a milestone document in the history of human rights. It was drafted by the representatives with different legal and cultural backgrounds from all regions of the world. The declaration was proclaimed by the United Nations General Assembly in Paris on 10th December 1948 as a common standard of achievement for all people and all nations. The declaration consists of 30 articles affirming an individual's rights, which although not The declaration consists of 30 articles affirming an individual's rights. And this was the first step in the process of formulating the International Bill of Rights, which was completed in 1966 and came into force in 1976 after a sufficient number of countries had ratified them. So, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights was developed, and then there came a demand to legally bind the document. So, as a result, the International Covenants on Human Rights was developed for the protection of human rights. 2 international covenants were approved by the General Assembly on 16th December 1966, and these were the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights and the International Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights. They contain an international mechanism to monitor and oversee that the obligation of human rights are observed by state parties to the covenants. So, this was a general introduction about the human rights, its meaning, concept and how it developed. Thank you.